The council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a giant steel flower. Inside, representatives from dozens of alien worlds sat in their designated seats, arguing as they had been for weeks. Ambassador Jiwoo stood at the speaker's platform, her hands gripping the edge so hard her knuckles turned white. "Another colony has fallen," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "That makes 15 worlds in 3 months. 15. How many more will burn while we debate?" A tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms raised one hand. Counselor Thelvara spoke in a voice like wind through trees. "Ambassador, we understand your concern, but the proper protocols must be followed. We cannot simply rush into military action without what?" Jiwoo interrupted. "Without filling out the correct forms? Without waiting for committee approval? People are dying right now." The chamber erupted in angry chatter. Some species clicked their approval. Others hissed their disapproval. The Quintari representative, a being that looked like a floating crystal, pulsed with red light. "Humans are so young to the stars. Only 300 years since you left your world. You do not understand how things work here." Jiwoo wanted to scream. She had been coming to these meetings for 2 months begging for action. The Vraxian Dominion was sweeping through the outer rim like a wildfire. Their massive fleet destroyed everything in its path. They gave no warnings, accepted no surrender. They simply erased entire colonies from existence, and the Galactic Council did nothing but talk. Far away from Station Apex, in a secret military facility orbiting Earth's moon, Admiral Taesung read the message that had just arrived. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes were hard as steel. He had been a soldier for 40 years. He had fought in the colony wars, defended settlements from pirates, and protected trade routes from raiders. He knew what needed to be done. "Sir?" Captain Hana entered his office, her uniform crisp and perfect. She was young for a captain, only 35, but she had proven herself time and again. "You sent for me?" Taesung handed her the message. "Read it." Hana's eyes moved across the screen. Her expression changed from curiosity to shock to grim determination. "They're authorizing full mobilization. Every ship, every crew, everything we have." Taesung stood and walked to the window. Below he could see Earth, beautiful and blue. "The Council won't act. So we will. The other species will be angry," Hana said carefully. "Let them be angry." Taesung turned to face her. "Our people are dying. Human colonies, yes, but also civilians from a dozen other species who settled in the outer rim. The Vraxians don't care what species you are. They kill everyone." Hana nodded. She understood. "When do we leave?" 72 hours. I need you to gather all senior officers. We have a lot of work to do." The news spread quickly through Earth's military. Ships that had been on patrol were called back. Crews on leave were recalled to duty. Weapons were loaded, engines were tested, supplies were gathered. In shipyards across human space, workers moved with purpose. Everyone knew what was coming. On Station Apex, Jiwoo received a coded message on her personal device. She read it twice, then deleted it. Her face remained calm, but inside her heart raced. The message had been simple. "The cavalry is coming. Stay safe." She knew what it meant. Earth was done waiting. The next day the council met again. The Vraxians had sent a new message, and it was being displayed for all to see. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a Vraxian commander, a massive creature covered in dark scales with eyes like burning coals. "Species of the Galactic Council," the creature said, its voice deep and rumbling. "You have 7 days to withdraw all presence from the Outer Rim territories. These systems now belong to the Vraxian Dominion. Any ship, any station, any settlement that remains will be destroyed. This is our final warning." The hologram vanished. Silence filled the chamber. 7 days, someone whispered. "Impossible," another said. "The evacuation alone would take months." "Then we must negotiate," the Quintari representative said. "Perhaps if we offer them something." "Offer them what?" Jiwoo's voice was cold. "Our dignity? Our freedom? Or maybe just the lives of everyone in the Outer Rim. You have a better solution, human?" The crystal being pulsed angrily. "Yes," Jiwoo said. "Fight." Laughter echoed through the chamber. Not kind laughter, but the mocking sound of those who thought themselves superior. "Fight with what?" Thelvara asked almost gently. "Humanity has what, 100 ships? Maybe 200? The Vraxians have thousands. They have conquered 17 star systems. Their technology is centuries ahead of most species. What can your people possibly do?" Jiwoo smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You'll see. Back at the lunar facility, Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. Around him, officers worked at their stations, checking systems and running diagnostics. Through the main viewport, he could see the fleet assembling, 127 ships. That was humanity's entire military force. Cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and carriers. Every vessel humanity had built in 3 centuries of space travel. It looked like a lot, but Tae-sung knew the truth. Compared to other species, it was nothing. The Vraxians alone had 3 times as many ships, but numbers weren't everything. "Sir, all ships report ready," Hana said from the tactical station. "Very good." Tae-sung looked at his crew. These were the best humanity had to offer. They came from every nation on Earth, every culture, every background. But they all shared one thing. They were willing to fight for what was right. "Open a channel to the fleet," Tae-sung ordered. "Channel open." "Sir." Tae-sung's voice went out to every ship. Every crew member, every soul in the fleet. "This is Admiral Tae-sung. In a few hours we will jump to the Helion sector. Intelligence says the Vraxian fleet is gathering there to destroy the last free colony. 300 enemy warships against our 127. He paused, letting that sink in. "The Council thinks we're too young, too weak, too small to matter. The Vraxians think we're just another species to crush. They're all about to learn something important about humanity. We don't wait for permission to do what's right. We don't hide behind committees and protocols when innocent people need help. And we sure as hell don't back down from a fight just because the odds are bad." Tae-sung's voice grew harder. "We're going to hit them fast and hit them hard. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human lives. And we're going to make damn sure that the Vraxians regret ever coming to our part of space. All ships, prepare for jump. We leave in 1 hour." The channel closed. Tae-sung sat in his command chair and waited. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. No one spoke unnecessarily. Everyone knew their job. Captain Hana came to stand beside him. "Sir, do you think this will work?" Tae-sung looked at her. "It has to. Because if it doesn't, a lot of good people are going to die. And if it does work, the Council will be furious that we acted without authorization. Then they'll be furious." Tae-sung smiled grimly. "Better to ask forgiveness than permission." The hour passed quickly. Final checks were made. Coordinates were locked in. Weapons were armed. The fleet hung in space waiting for the order. Tae-sung took a deep breath. This was it. Everything humanity had built, everything they had worked for, came down to this moment. "All ships," he said. "Jump, space twisted." Light bent, and humanity's battle fleet disappeared, racing toward their destiny at faster than light speed. The fleet traveled through the strange realm between normal space and faster than light. Inside the ships, life continued. Crews ate their meals, checked their equipment, and prepared for what was coming. But there was a tension in the air, a feeling that everyone shared but no one spoke about. In the war room of the Indomitable, Admiral Tae-sung gathered his senior officers. Holographic displays showed star maps, ship positions, and intelligence reports. Captain Hana stood at the main display, a pointer in her hand. "This is what we know," she said. "The Vraxian fleet has 300 ships positioned around the Helion colony world. They're arranged in a standard defensive sphere, which means they expect any attack to come from outside, giving them time to respond. But we're not coming from outside," said Commander Jae-won, the leader of the fighter squadrons. He was a lean man with sharp eyes and quick reflexes. "Exactly." Hana smiled. "We're going to jump directly into the middle of their formation." Several officers looked shocked. One spoke up. "That's suicide. We'll be surrounded. Only if they can react fast enough," Hana replied. She touched the display and it changed to show a 3-dimensional grid. "This is our formation. We call it the web. Each ship has a specific position and specific targets. When we emerge from the jump, we'll already be in perfect firing position." Dr. Yujin, an older woman with gray hair and intelligent eyes, stepped forward. She was humanity's top military historian and strategist. "Let me explain why this will work. The Vraxians, like most spacefaring species, fight according to ancient traditions. They position their fleets at long range. They exchange fire slowly. They follow rules of engagement that date back thousands of years. Humans don't fight that way," Tae-sung said quietly. "No, we don't." Yujin brought up images from Earth's history. Ancient battles, medieval warfare, modern combat. Humans learned to fight on a planet where resources were limited, and survival meant being faster and smarter than your enemy. We learned to strike first, strike hard, and strike where it hurts most. While other species were developing honor codes and formal battle procedures, humans were perfecting the ambush, the surprise attack, the devastating first strike. Engineer Dong Hyun raised his hand. He was a big man with permanently grease-stained fingers. That brings us to the weapons. Sir, permission to brief the officers on our capabilities? Taesung nodded. Dong Hyun's face lit up with enthusiasm. Okay, so here's the thing about human weapons. Most alien species use energy weapons. Lasers, plasma cannons, particle beams. They're effective, but they have one major weakness. Shields can stop them. The shields absorb the energy and disperse it. He pulled up a schematic of a human railgun. We use kinetic weapons. Specifically, railguns that fire solid projectiles at 0.3% of light speed. That's fast enough that by the time the enemy detects the shot, it's already hit them. And shields designed to stop energy? They do almost nothing against a solid chunk of metal moving that fast. How much nothing? Someone asked. Our tests show enemy shields reduce impact by maybe 15%, which means 85% of our shot goes right through and hits the hull. Dong Hyun grinned. It's like shooting arrows at someone wearing armor designed to stop bullets. Wrong tool for the job. Hana took over again. We also have EMP torpedoes, electromagnetic pulse weapons that will fry their electronics. And we've equipped every ship with Ghost Protocol. What's Ghost Protocol? Asked Lieutenant Su Min, the youngest officer in the room. Stealth technology, Hana explained. It's not perfect. In open space, they'll eventually detect us. But in the chaos of battle, with explosions and debris everywhere, it'll make us very hard to target. We can shoot them, but they'll have trouble shooting back. The briefing continued for hours. Every detail was covered, every question answered, every concern addressed. Taesung watched his officers carefully. He saw fear in some eyes, but also determination. They all knew this was dangerous. They all knew some might not come home, but they also knew it was necessary. After the briefing, Taesung walked the corridors of his ship. He passed crew members who saluted smartly. He stopped in the hangar bay where fighter pilots were checking their craft. He visited the medical bay where doctors were preparing for casualties. Everywhere he went, he saw the same thing. Professionals doing their jobs. In the mess hall, he found Commander Jae-won having a meal with his squadron leaders. They stood when they saw the Admiral, but he waved them back down. Mind if I join you? Taesung asked. Of course not, sir, Jae-won said, making room. Taesung sat and listened to them talk. They discussed tactics, told jokes, shared stories from their training. They were so young, most of them. But they were ready, sir, one pilot said. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think we can really win? I mean, 300 against 127. Those are pretty bad odds. Taesung thought about his answer carefully. I've been a soldier a long time. I've fought in battles where we were outnumbered. I've seen small forces defeat larger ones. You want to know the secret? They all leaned in. It's not about size. It's about speed, surprise, and skill. The Vraxians have more ships, yes. But we're faster. We're smarter. And we're going to hit them before they even know we're there. In a fair fight, they'd probably win. But we're not giving them a fair fight. The pilots grinned at that. Later, in his quarters, Taesung reviewed the intelligence reports one more time. The Vraxians were powerful, no question. Their empire had crushed species that had been spacefaring for millennia. Their ships were large and heavily armed. Their crews were experienced warriors, but they had never fought humans before. Taesung thought about humanity's history. 300 years in space was nothing compared to other species. Some of the council members had been traveling between stars for 10,000 years. They saw humans as children, barely understanding how the galaxy worked. They were wrong. Humans had been fighting each other for tens of thousands of years. They had developed warfare into an art form. They had written books about strategy, studied every battle, learned from every defeat. When humans finally reached the stars, they brought all that knowledge with them. Other species fought for territory or resources. Humans fought for survival. And when humans fought for survival, they were terrifying. A message came through on his console. It was from Ambassador Ji-woo, carefully coded so the council wouldn't intercept it. Whatever you're planning, do it soon. The Vraxians are moving faster than expected. Helion colony has maybe 48 hours before the attack begins. Good luck, old friend. Taesung checked the navigation display. They would arrive in 36 hours. Plenty of time. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All personnel, this is Admiral Tae-sung. We are now in communication silence. From this point forward, all ships will maintain quantum-entangled networks only. The enemy cannot detect these, which means they won't know we're coming. Get some rest. Check your equipment. And prepare yourselves. In 36 hours, we're going to show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Throughout the fleet, men and women received the message. Some prayed. Some exercised. Some wrote letters home that might never be sent. Some simply stared out the viewports at the strange colors of faster-than-light space. In the fighter bay, Jaewon ran his hand along the hull of his craft. It was smaller than the Vraxian fighters, but faster and more agile. Like everything human-made, it was designed for speed and precision. In the engine room, Dong-hyun and his team made final adjustments. Every system had to work perfectly. One mistake could cost lives. In the medical bay, doctors and nurses prepared operating rooms. They hoped they wouldn't be needed, but they prepared anyway. On the bridge, Captain Hana ran simulation after simulation. She looked at every possible outcome, every potential problem. The plan was good, but battle never went exactly as planned. She needed to be ready for anything. And in his quarters, Admiral Tae-sung looked at a photograph of his family. His wife, his children, his grandchildren. They were all safe on Earth, far from the fighting. He was doing this for them, for all the families in the Outer Rim who just wanted to live in peace. The Vraxians had made a mistake. They had assumed humans would be like the other species, slow to act, bound by protocols and procedures. They had assumed Earth would wait for counsel, approval before defending its people. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The fleet continued its journey through the darkness between stars, silent, invisible, deadly, like a blade sliding from its sheath ready to strike. The Helion system looked peaceful from a distance. A yellow sun warmed 3 planets, the middle one supporting human and alien colonists who had built homes far from their birth worlds. They wanted simple lives, farming and trading and raising families. They never asked to be part of a war. The Vraxian fleet surrounded their world like a metal cage. 300 massive warships, each one larger than any human vessel. They hung in space, weapons ready, waiting for the deadline to pass. On the colony below, people looked up at the sky with fear. Inside the command ship of the Vraxian fleet, war leader Throck studied his displays with satisfaction. The primitive colonists had nowhere to run. Their pathetic distress signals had gone unanswered. The Galactic Council, as always, was too weak to act. Any response from the Council? Throck asked his communications officer. None, war leader. They continued to debate. Throck's mouth parts clicked in what passed for Vraxian laughter. Of course they do. By the time they finish talking, this system will be ours. Prepare the bombardment fleet. When the deadline passes, I want that planet sterilized within 1 hour. As you command, war leader. Throck settled back in his command throne. Another easy victory. Another system added to the Dominion. The other species were so predictable, so weak. They valued life over victory, peace over power. It made them easy to conquer. He didn't know that death was already racing toward him at faster than light speed. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Tae-sung watched the countdown timer. 5 minutes until they arrived. Around him, the bridge crew worked with calm precision. No panic, no unnecessary chatter. Just professionals doing their jobs. All ships report ready, sir, Captain Hana said from her station. Good. Tae-sung opened the fleet channel one last time. All ships, this is Admiral Tae-sung. In 5 minutes, we emerge into combat. Remember your training. Trust your crews. And remember what we're fighting for. The innocent people on that colony are counting on us. The galaxy is watching even if they don't know it yet. Today we show them all what humanity stands for. Good luck and good hunting. He closed the channel and looked at his crew. Captain Hana, status on the web formation? All ships confirm positions locked. We'll emerge exactly as planned. Weapon status? Lieutenant Su-min looked up from her console. All railguns loaded and charged. EMP torpedoes armed. Ready on your command, sir. Fighter squadrons? Commander Jae-won reports all fighters ready for immediate launch. Tae-sung nodded. Everything was ready. Now came the hard part, the waiting. These last few minutes before battle were always the worst. Time seemed to slow down. Every second felt like an hour. He thought about what they were about to do. In a few minutes, thousands of people would die. Vraxian warriors who probably thought they were doing the right thing. But they had made a choice to attack innocent colonists. They had chosen this path. 1 minute, Hana called out. Tae-sung straightened in his chair. All hands, battle stations. Prepare for combat emergence. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Crew members ran to their positions. Blast doors sealed. Emergency systems activated. In the hangar bay, fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. 30 seconds. The bridge lights dimmed to combat lighting, painting everything in shades of red. 10 seconds. Tae-sung's hands gripped the arms of his command chair. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Emergence. Space twisted. Reality bent. And suddenly, the human fleet materialized in the center of the Vraxian formation. For exactly 3 seconds, nothing happened. The Vraxians were completely frozen in shock. Their sensors screamed warnings. Enemy ships had appeared from nowhere, inside their defensive perimeter in perfect attack formation. It was impossible. It violated every rule of space combat they knew. Those 3 seconds cost them everything. All ships fire, Tae-sung commanded. The human fleet opened fire at once. Railguns that had been charged and aimed before the jump released their deadly cargo. Solid projectiles moving at thousands of kilometers per second crossed the short distance to their targets in less than a heartbeat. The first Vraxian ships died, without ever knowing what hit them. The projectiles punched through their shields like they weren't there, tore through hulls designed to withstand energy weapons, and exploded inside the vessels. Secondary explosions followed as fuel and ammunition cooked off. Lieutenant Su-min worked her console like a musician playing an instrument. Each press of a button sent another railgun round screaming toward a target. Her screen showed red crosses appearing on Vraxian ships as they took damage. Target destroyed. Acquiring next target, firing, target destroyed. Acquiring next target, firing. She worked with mechanical precision, her voice never changing tone. Around her, other weapons officers did the same. The Indomitable's main guns fired again and again, each shot finding its mark. Launch fighters, Tae-sung ordered. Hangar bays across the fleet opened. Hundreds of small, fast human fighters poured out like angry wasps. Commander Jae-won led the charge, his voice calm over the squadron channel. All wings, engage enemy engines. Precision strikes only. We disable, not destroy when possible. Move fast, stay low, don't get caught in their firing solution. The fighters dove into the chaos of battle. They were so much smaller than the capital ships, so much faster. Vraxian gunners tried to track them and failed. The human fighters darted between the massive enemy vessels, their weapons spitting fire at critical systems. Jae-won's fighter screamed past a Vraxian cruiser. He fired a burst into the engine section and pulled away hard, the G-forces crushing him into his seat. Behind him, the cruiser's engines exploded, leaving it dead in space. Engine kill confirmed. Moving to next target. On the Vraxian command ship, War Leader Throck finally recovered from his shock. Return fire! All ships return fire! But his fleet was in chaos. Ships were exploding all around him. His crews were trained warriors, yes, but they had never faced anything like this. The human ships were everywhere, firing from all angles. And their weapons were tearing through Vraxian shields like they were made of paper. War Leader, we've lost 40 ships. Our shields aren't stopping their projectile weapons. Then evade. Take evasive action. We can't, sir. They're too close. If we move, we'll collide with our own ships. Throck realized the trap. The humans had jumped into the middle of his formation on purpose. His ships were packed too closely together. They couldn't maneuver without hitting each other. They were sitting targets. All ships scatter. Break formation. But it was too late. Captain Hana had predicted this response. They're trying to scatter. All ships execute Ghost Protocol. EMP torpedoes fire on my mark. Across the human fleet, ships activated their stealth systems. They didn't become invisible, but in the chaos of battle with explosions and debris everywhere, they became very hard to target. At the same time, hundreds of EMP torpedoes launched. The torpedoes were smaller than the railgun rounds, easier to miss in the confusion. They slipped through the Vraxian formation like fish through water, and then they detonated. Electromagnetic pulses washed over the Vraxian fleet. Ships that were already damaged had their systems fried. Weapons stopped working. Shields flickered and died. Engines went offline. Entire vessels went dark, their crews trapped inside metal coffins. Engineer Dong Hyun watched from his station in the engine room and allowed himself a small smile. The EMPs were his design. They worked even better than he had hoped. The battle had been going for exactly 8 minutes. The Vraxian fleet was already broken. Some Vraxian ships tried to fight back. Energy weapons fired wildly into space, hitting nothing. A few lucky shots struck human vessels, but the damage was minor. The human ships had been designed with protection against energy weapons. Their shields held. Taesung watched his displays, his face calm but his mind racing. They were winning, but the battle wasn't over. Status report. 70% of enemy vessels disabled or destroyed, Hana reported. Our casualties. 7 ships with minor damage, 0 ships destroyed. The remaining Vraxian ships? They're trying to flee, sir. Taesung made a decision. Let them go. No pursuit. Hana looked surprised. Sir? We came here to protect the colony, not to hunt down every Vraxian ship. Let them run. Let them tell their leaders what happened here. Sometimes the survivors are more useful than the dead. He opened a channel to the Vraxian command ship. Vraxian war leader, this is Admiral Taesung of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your attack on this colony is over. You have 2 options. Surrender your remaining ships and we will treat you according to the laws of war, or flee the system and never return. Choose now. On the Vraxian command ship, Throck stared at his displays in disbelief. His fleet was destroyed. 300 ships reduced to scattered survivors in less than 12 minutes. It was impossible. It was unthinkable, but it had happened. We flee, he said quietly. Order all surviving ships to jump to hyperspace immediately. The remaining Vraxian vessels, maybe 60 ships that could still move, turned and ran. They jumped away in random directions, desperate to escape the human killers. In orbit around the colony world, silence fell. The battle was over. Human ships hung in space, surrounded by the debris of the Vraxian fleet. No one spoke for a long moment. Then from the planet below, a message came through. Human ships, this is Helion Colony. We can't believe it. You saved us. News of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed. On every world, in every station, through every communication network, the same message traveled. Humanity had destroyed a Vraxian fleet. Not just defeated it, destroyed it. 300 warships gone in 12 minutes. On Station Apex, the Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other, their voices creating a cacophony of sound. Some were amazed. Some were frightened. Some were angry. Ambassador Jiwoo stood at her platform watching the chaos with calm satisfaction. She had known this would happen. She had prepared for it. Counselor Thelvara called for order, her 4 arms waving in the air. Silence. We must have order. Slowly the noise died down. Ambassador Jiwoo, your species has committed an act of war without council authorization. This is completely unacceptable. You have violated every protocol, We saved thousands of lives, Jiwoo interrupted. Her voice was cold and sharp. While you debated and discussed and filled out forms, people were dying. We did what you were too afraid to do. We acted. You had no right. The Quintari representative pulsed with angry red light. The council must approve all military actions. This is the law. And while we waited for your approval, how many more colonies would have burned? Jiwoo looked around the chamber. The Vraxians gave you a deadline. 7 days to abandon the Outer Rim. You were going to let them have it. You were going to surrender without a fight. We were negotiating, someone shouted. You can't negotiate with someone who only understands force, Jiwoo replied. The Vraxians destroyed 17 systems. They killed millions. And you did nothing. So we did something. Thelvara's voice softened slightly. We understand your frustration, Ambassador. But this action changes everything. Your fleet destroyed 300 Vraxian ships. That's not a defensive action. That's a statement of military power. The other species are frightened now. Not of the Vraxians. Of you. Jiwoo let that sink in. Then she spoke carefully. Good, let them be frightened. Let everyone know that humanity will defend the innocent. Let everyone know that we don't hide behind rules and procedures when lives are at stake. And let the Vraxians know that if they attack any colony again, they'll face the same fate. Far away on the Vraxian homeworld, the news caused a different kind of chaos. Supreme Leader Vraxkor sat on his throne, surrounded by his generals and advisors. They were all shouting, blaming each other for the disaster. How could this happen? Vraxkor's voice boomed across the chamber. War Leader Throck had 300 ships. How could a fleet of primitive humans destroy him? One general stepped forward. His name was Vraxtel, and he was old enough to remember when the Dominion was small. My lord, perhaps we underestimated them. These humans, they fight differently than any species we have encountered. They fight like cowards, another general shouted, appearing inside our formation using surprise attacks. No honor, no dignity. They fight like winners, Vraxtal said quietly. And we lost, Vraxcor's eyes burned with rage. Assemble another fleet. A larger one. We will crush these humans and show the galaxy that the Dominion cannot be defeated. But Vraxtal shook his head. My lord, with respect, we cannot. Our military commanders are afraid. Word has spread through our ranks. The soldiers know what happened at Helion. They are saying the humans are unstoppable. Several of our colonies are already in revolt, sensing weakness. Then we execute the commanders who show fear. Vraxcor roared. Execute them all? We would have no military left. Vraxtal met his leader's gaze. My lord, perhaps it is time to consider peace. The word hung in the air like a curse. The Vraxian Dominion did not make peace. They conquered. That was their way. But now, for the first time in centuries, they had been stopped. On the colony world of Helion, Admiral Taesung walked through the streets of the main settlement. Colonists surrounded him, wanting to shake his hand, to thank him, to touch the man who had saved them. He was uncomfortable with the attention, but he endured it. Governor Minseo, the leader of the colony, walked beside him. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gray hair. Admiral, there are no words to express our gratitude. We thought we were going to die. You're safe now, Governor, Taesung said, because of you and your people. She looked at him seriously. But I have to ask, what happens next? The Vraxians won't forget this. Will they come back? Not if I can help it. Taesung stopped walking and turned to face her. That's actually why I wanted to speak with you. With your permission, I'd like to station a fleet group here. Not a large force, maybe 20 ships, but enough to protect you if the Vraxians try again. Minseo's eyes filled with tears. You would do that for us? Of course. That's what allies do. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Hana reviewed the battle data. Every shot, every movement, every decision had been recorded. She studied it all, looking for mistakes, for things they could do better next time. Because there would be a next time. She was certain of it. A message appeared on her screen. It was from Earth Command, marked urgent. She read it quickly, her eyes widening. Admiral Taesung to the bridge immediately. She called over the intercom. When Taesung arrived, Hana showed him the message. Sir, you need to see this. It's from Earth. Taesung read the message. His expression didn't change, but Hana knew him well enough to see the tension in his shoulders. What does it say? She asked. Earth has received communication requests from 12 different species. They all want the same thing, protection. They're all in the outer rim, vulnerable to Vraxian attacks. They want humanity to defend them. 12 species, Hana said slowly. That's a lot of responsibility. It's more than that, Taesung said. If we agree to protect them, we become the defenders of the outer rim. We become the military power in this part of the galaxy. The Council won't like it, the Vraxians will hate it, and other species will either respect us or fear us. What are you going to recommend to Earth Command? Taesung thought for a long moment. I'm going to recommend we accept. Not because we want power, but because if we don't, those 12 species will be destroyed. And I didn't become a soldier to stand by and watch innocent people die. In his private quarters that night, Taesung sat alone, looking at reports on his screen. Casualty reports. Not human casualties, thank the stars, but Vraxian casualties. Over 4,000 Vraxian warriors had died in the battle. 4,000 beings with families, with lives, with dreams. He had killed them. It was necessary. It was the right thing to do. But that didn't make it easy. There was a knock on his door. Come in, Captain Hana entered, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to him and sat down. They drank in silence for a moment. You're thinking about them, Hana said. It wasn't a question. I always think about them, Taesung replied. Every person who dies in a battle I command. Ours and theirs. They made their choice. They came here to destroy a colony. I know, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. He set down his cup. Do you know what frightens me, Hana? Not the Vraxians, not the Council. What frightens me is how easy this could become. We won today. We won decisively. And now everyone wants us to be their protectors. We could build an empire. We could become the very thing we fought against. We won't, Hana said firmly, because we have people like you in command. People who still think about the cost, who still question their decisions. That's what makes us different from the Vraxians. Taesung smiled slightly. I hope you're right. Across the galaxy in hundreds of systems, people watched recordings of the battle. The footage had been released by the human fleet, showing exactly what had happened. It was a message to everyone. Humanity could protect you or humanity could defeat you. The choice was yours. On a dozen worlds, leaders held emergency meetings. Some discussed alliances with humanity. Some discussed how to defend against humanity if it ever became necessary. Some simply watched in awe at what the young species had accomplished. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. On Station Apex, Ambassador Jiwoo prepared for another council meeting. This one would be different. This time she wasn't begging for action. This time she would be dictating terms. She looked at her reflection in the mirror and straightened her uniform. The ambassador who had left this morning was the same person physically. But she felt different. Humanity had proven itself. Now came the hard part, using that proof wisely. Her communication device buzzed. A message from Admiral Taesung. The fleet is being divided. 20 ships staying at Helion. The rest returning to Earth to refit and resupply. We did good work today, but this is only the beginning. Stay strong, Ambassador. The next battle will be fought with words, and that's your battlefield. Jiwoo smiled. He was right. They had won the military battle. Now she had to win the diplomatic one. She had to convince the Council to recognize humanity as a guardian species, responsible for protecting the Outer Rim. It wouldn't be easy, but then again, nothing worthwhile ever was. She picked up her tablet and headed to the Council chamber. Time to change the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Helion. The galaxy was a different place now. On Station Apex, the Galactic Council chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. Today was important. Today, the Council would vote on humanity's official status in the galactic community. Ambassador Jiwoo stood at the speaker's platform waiting for silence. Councillor Thelvara called the session to order. We are here to discuss Resolution 47B, which would recognize humanity as a guardian species, with responsibility for the security of the Outer Rim territories. Ambassador Jiwoo, you may speak. Jiwoo stepped forward. She had practiced this speech 100 times, but now that the moment was here, she decided to speak from her heart instead. 6 months ago, I stood in this chamber and begged you for help. Colonies were burning, people were dying, and you did nothing. You talked about protocols and procedures while innocent beings lost their lives. I was angry then. I'm not angry now. I understand why you hesitated. War is terrible. No one should rush into it. She paused, looking around the chamber. But someone has to be willing to fight when fighting is necessary. Someone has to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. Humanity didn't ask for this responsibility. We took it because no one else would. And now 12 species in the Outer Rim sleep safely at night because human ships patrol their skies. Humanity seeks too much power, the Quintari representative said. You have over 100 warships now. You control the military forces of 16 different species who have sworn to follow your command. You are building an empire. We're building a defense network, Jiwoo corrected. And yes, other species have asked us to train their forces. They've asked because they trust us. Because in 6 months we haven't taken a single colony for ourselves. We haven't demanded tribute. We haven't forced anyone to do anything. We've simply kept our word to protect them. Thelvara spoke up. The Council acknowledges humanity's effectiveness in military matters, but we have concerns. Your methods are brutal. Your tactics are aggressive. You attack first and ask questions later. We attack those who threaten the innocent, Jiwoo said firmly. Yes, our methods are different from yours, but they work. The Vraxian Dominion hasn't attacked a single colony since Helion, not one. They're too afraid. And because of that fear, thousands of lives have been saved. On Earth, in the military academy in Geneva, Captain Hana stood before a classroom of students. But these weren't human students. They were aliens from a dozen different species, all here to learn human military tactics. Let's review yesterday's simulation, Hana said, bringing up a holographic display. The scenario was a direct assault on a fortified position. How did most of you approach it? A Felthara student raised one of his forearms. We positioned our ships at long range and began systematic bombardment of their defenses. And how long did the simulation predict that would take? 14 hours, Captain. 14 hours, Hana repeated. That's 14 hours where the enemy can call for reinforcements, prepare countermeasures, or evacuate valuable assets. Now, let's look at how the human solution approached the same problem. She changed the display. We identified the weakest point in their defenses. We sent a small strike force directly to that point while making it look like we were preparing a conventional assault elsewhere. The strike force disabled the main shield generator. Once the shields were down, our main fleet jumped in close and destroyed the command center. Total time, 18 minutes. The students looked shocked. A Quintari student pulsed with confusion. But Captain, that requires taking enormous risks. What if the strike force was destroyed? Then we would have adapted and tried something else, Hana said. That's the point. Human warfare is about being flexible, creative, and willing to take calculated risks. Yes, sometimes those risks don't pay off, but when they do, you win decisively. She looked at her students seriously. I'm not here to tell you that human methods are the only right methods. Every species has its own approach to warfare. But I am here to show you what works for us, and why. You can take what's useful and adapt it to your own needs. Far away, on the border of former Vraxian territory, Admiral Tae Sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. His fleet was smaller now, only 40 ships, but they were the newest and best humanity had built. Around them floated vessels from 6 different allied species, all trained in human tactics. Sir, we're receiving a distress call, the communications officer reported. It's from a transport ship. They're under attack by pirates. How far? 12 light minutes, sir. Tae Sung didn't hesitate. All ships prepare for jump, we're going to help them. The fleet jumped, emerging near the transport ship. 5 pirate vessels were surrounding it, trying to break through its shields. When they saw the human fleet appear, they immediately turned to flee. Let them go, Tae Sung ordered. Hail the transport ship, make sure they're okay. The transport captain's face appeared on the screen. He was a Morvani, with pale blue skin and large eyes. Human fleet, thank you. They were trying to steal our cargo. We sent a distress call but didn't expect anyone to respond so quickly. We patrol these routes now, Tae Sung said. You're safe. If you need repairs, we can escort you to the nearest station. Thank you, Admiral. I've heard stories about human ships protecting traders. I'm glad to see the stories are true. After the call ended, Tae Sung's first officer spoke up. Sir, is this really what we do now? Chase off pirates? Yes, Tae Sung said simply. Being a guardian species means protecting everyone, not just during wars, but every day. Pirates, raiders, anyone who threatens peaceful travelers, that's the job. On the Vraxian homeworld, former Supreme Leader Vraxkor sat in a prison cell. He had been overthrown by his own generals 6 months ago, shortly after the Battle of Helion. The Vraxian Dominion was now led by Vraxtal, the old general who had counseled peace. Vraxtal visited the former leader in his cell. I thought you should know. We've signed a peace treaty with the Galactic Council. The Dominion will withdraw from all conquered territories and pay reparations to the species we harmed. Vraxkor looked up with hate in his eyes. You've made us weak. No, Vraxtal said. You made us weak by believing we could conquer everyone. The humans taught us a hard lesson. There will always be someone stronger, someone smarter, someone willing to fight harder. Better to have allies than enemies. The humans will destroy you. They'll take everything we built. Vraxtal shook his head. Actually, they've offered to help us rebuild. They're willing to share technology, to train our forces in defensive tactics. They don't want to destroy us. They want us to become better. He turned to leave, then stopped. The galaxy is changing, Vraxkor. Species that adapt will survive. Those that don't will be left behind. I choose to adapt. Back on Earth, young officer Hyun-woo graduated from the military academy. He was 22 years old and he had grown up hearing stories about the Battle of Helion. Now he was joining the fleet himself. His first assignment was to the patrol group protecting the Outer Rim. As his transport ship approached the fleet, He looked out the window in awe. Human ships flew alongside alien vessels, all working together. When he reported to his new ship, he was surprised to find his commanding officer was a Felthara. The four-armed alien welcomed him aboard. "Ensign Hyun-woo, reporting for duty, sir." "Welcome aboard," the Felthara captain said in perfect English. "I trained at your academy under Captain Hana. She taught me everything I know about human tactics. I hope to teach you what I know about Felthara patience and precision. Together we'll make a good team." Hyun-woo smiled. This was the new galaxy. Different species working together, learning from each other, protecting each other. At the Galactic Council, the vote was completed. The resolution passed with 78% approval. Humanity was officially recognized as a guardian species. Ambassador Ji-woo received the news with quiet satisfaction. But she knew this was just the beginning. With recognition came responsibility. Humanity would have to prove, day after day, that they deserved the trust placed in them. That night, she sent a message to Admiral Tae-sung. "We did it. The Council approved the resolution. Humanity is now officially the guardian of the Outer Rim. I hope we're ready for this." Tae-sung's response came quickly. "We're ready. We've been ready since the moment we decided to act instead of talk. The galaxy needed protectors. Now they have them. We won't let them down." On a distant observation station, sensors detected something unusual. Far beyond known space, in the deep dark between galaxies, something was moving. Something large, something that was slowly turning toward the Milky Way. The technician monitoring the station flagged the anomaly and sent a report to his superiors. They would investigate. But for now, the galaxy was peaceful. Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, new challenges waited. New threats would emerge, but humanity would face them just as they had faced the Vraxians. Because that's what Guardians did. They stood watch. They protected the weak. They fought when necessary and made peace when possible. "Sir?" Captain Hana appeared at his side. "New orders from Earth Command. We're to establish a permanent base in the Helion system. They're calling it Guardian Station.